Have you inherited a home that doesn't have a mortgage? It's been paid off, or maybe your loved one paid cash for the home and you're a bit unsure what to do with the property? Well, that's exactly what I'll be diving into today. Hey there, I'm Lisa Kwashnick, a realtor right here in the Sacramento area, and I'm also a certified probate and trust specialist. My husband Jim and I have been helping executors and administrators gain valuable insight and understanding so they can fast track their time and get more out of the property that they've inherited. In this video, I'll be going over 7 solid options for you to consider. And here's the cool thing, there's even more than 7 options. Maybe something I say in this video will spark an idea in your head. That's one of the things that I love so much about real estate. It's not a cookie stamp or a cookie cutter industry, and I'm excited to share with you a few ideas today. If you've inherited a property that is mortgage free, it really is a gift. And even if the property has a mortgage, some of these options may still be viable or worth considering. So let's get started. The first question is, do you want to keep the property or do you want to sell it? It's okay if you don't know the answer to that question right away. Hopefully by the end of this video, you'll have a better idea of what the pros and cons may be for you with what you want to achieve. Let's go ahead and explore each avenue. The first option is pretty straightforward. It's keeping the property for yourself or maybe having a family member move in. It's a simple and obvious choice, but it's worth considering. If you decide to keep it as your personal residence, there may be some tax benefits that you can take advantage of. I did another video on ways to reduce capital gains, and I'll make sure that that video appears at the end of this video. The second option is to keep the home as a rental property. This second option could be another video topic at a later time, but if you decide to keep the property and rent it out, there are actually several things that you can do. You could offer it as a long-term lease agreement, like 6 months to a year. You could offer it as a short-term rental, like on Airbnb or VRBO. You could offer it as corporate housing or what we call a midterm rental. This would be something like traveling nurses, for example. Maybe they're contracted with a hospital for 6 weeks or 3 months. The rent amount is typically higher than market rate because of the shorter term, but you wouldn't have the turnover like in a short-term rental, but you also wouldn't be locked into a long-term lease. Or another rental option is shared housing, where you're essentially renting each individual bedroom and the tenants share a common space, which is the kitchen and the bathrooms. Jim and I have been doing this since 2017, and overall it's worked out fantastic. It works best when you have like-minded individuals under the same roof, whether they're students or veterans or people in their golden years on a fixed income. I think I just found the next topic for my next video, because I could go on and on and on about the different ways to rent a property. If you do decide to keep the property as a rental, this would entail a certain level of involvement in managing and maintaining the property. However, it could provide a steady monthly income if that's what you're looking for. Now, if you like the idea of a steady monthly income, but you don't necessarily want to keep the property, you may want to consider a lease option or providing seller financing, which is option number 3. I don't know your level of understanding of these two terms, so forgive me if I give a very elementary explanation. When I say lease option, you can think rent to own. An example of this would be someone who would like to be a homeowner. They've saved up for a down payment, but they're having a hard time qualifying for a loan today. Maybe it's because they just changed careers and they need another year of established income. Maybe they have a student loan debt that needs to be paid down a little bit more, but they've got great credit and they want to buy a house. You could say to them, listen, I'll accept your down payment today as an option to buy the home sometime in the future, say 2 years, 5 years, whatever term you agree to. In the meantime, you move into the home and make it yours. You can plant a garden in the backyard, you can paint the house, but if you want to do anything major to the home, well, let's talk. I'll stay on title and you'll lease the house for this amount each month. And if you decide to exercise your option to purchase the house at the end of our agreed upon time, you get to do that. But if you don't, then I get to either keep your down payment and find someone else to move in, or I get to keep your down payment and allow you to stay and rent the home, or I get to keep your down payment and extend the option time period. I love the idea of a lease option because it's a great way to help somebody transition into becoming a homeowner. There are all kinds of investors out there that like the idea of keeping somebody's down payment and just keep rolling the property over to the next person if the first person doesn't exercise their option to buy the property. But I'm meeting more and more people in our real estate investment groups who are like Jim and me. We get way more joy and satisfaction out of guiding someone towards the steps they need to take in order to get qualified for a loan and purchase the property. The other term I said was to provide seller financing. It's similar to a lease option in the way that you would receive a monthly payment from the buyer, but in most cases, you wouldn't hold title to the property. You would no longer be the owner. In this scenario, you would kind of be like the bank to the buyer for an agreed amount of time. It could be 1 year, it could be 30 years. Instead of the buyer making their mortgage payments to a bank, they'd be making them to you. There would be a note or a lien recorded on the property so that if the buyer refinanced or sold the property, you would receive payment in full. There may be some tax benefits to take advantage of here too, because you'd be receiving payments in installments rather than one lump sum in one tax year. So be sure to run this by your tax professional. I could go on and on about lease options and seller financing, but I think that'll have to be a later video too. In the meantime, if you want to know more or wonder if it'll work with the property you've inherited, please give me a call. We've officially transitioned from keeping the property to selling it, which takes us to option 4, seller leaseback. If you're living in the home and decide to sell it, but you need extra time to move or you need the cash from the sale to find another place, you may be able to stay in the home for a time after you've sold it. Most of the time, it's about 30 days or so, but I've seen a buyer and seller agree to a 6-month lease back. Usually, you would pay the buyer's PITI or principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, but that often depends on the market, whether there's a lot of homes on the market or very little, and it depends on the price and the location. If the property you've inherited has a lot of deferred maintenance or hasn't been updated in quite some time, a 5th option would be to sell the property as is. If you're going through probate, because that's public information, chances are high you've received 100 letters and 50 of them are from investors telling you that they'll buy the property as is for cash. And I'm willing to bet at least 10 of those investors are really good people wanting to help others while doing good work. But I'd still recommend hiring a realtor who knows how to market a property that needs a little bit of TLC. The more exposure a property has through the right messaging, photos, and videography to the right people, the more a home will sell for. And please do not be embarrassed about the condition of the property. Just like I'm putting myself out here, making myself open to public opinion, don't let the condition of the property hold you back from earning more. If the estate has a little money to invest in the property, either by doing the minimal requirements needed for the property to qualify for financing or to do a full remodel, this brings us to option number 6, invest to sell. Option 6 comes with lots of warnings. It's best to consult with an agent in your area, maybe someone with investment experience, particularly fix and flip. Not only will they be able to tell you what the ARV or the after repair value may be, they'll also offer guidance so that you don't over improve the property. They may have access to discounts on building materials or appliances, and hopefully they have a great eye for colors and textures and finishes and how these things complement each other. If you're not interested in doing a full remodel but want to make sure the property will pass inspections and qualify for certain types of financing, it may be a good idea to start with a pest and home inspection before the property is marketed. This way, the inspector can point out any issues or potential potential issues, and you can have those taken care of before the property even hits the market. It's always a good idea to consult with a real estate professional like me before you start any repairs or updates to a house. I just don't want you throwing good money down a newly installed drain. And option number 7 is converting the equity in the home to cash to use for another purpose. I mean, I think it would be great to use that money to buy another property that produces a monthly income for you, but that's because I love real estate. There's a lot to consider, and it really depends on your personal goals. Do you want to keep the property in the family and pass it to the next generation? Would you like to earn from it over time, or would you like a fast solution? Each option has its pros and cons, and in future episodes I can dive into those more, so be sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss out. But for now, consider what resonates with you and what makes the most sense in your current situation. I'm here if you have any questions about one of these options. You can leave a comment below and ask a question, or you can always call me directly. And as I promised earlier, you should be seeing right here the video where I go over ways to reduce capital gains on a property that you've inherited. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next video.